In the previous episode, after passing levels 3 and 4 of the wuxia tower, Luo Feng entered a deeper section of the true God path and found the walls completely blank, with no life diagrams or specimens. As he searched for clues, countless black light spots gathered and formed a blurry figure radiating overwhelming authority. The figure told him that he was only one step away from becoming an ultimate true God and that reaching that level depended entirely on himself. Then expressed hope that he would reach the top of wuxia tower before disappearing. Although Luo Feng could not see the figure clearly, he felt an irresistible urge to worship and devote himself to it. He concluded that it was likely a virtual consciousness left behind by His Majesty the Godly King, whose power far exceeded even the virtual consciousness of the previous Dong River. Realizing that only someone of the Godly King's status could have created wuxia tower and preserved such priceless life diagrams, Luo Feng began to suspect that the gigantic corpse floating in universe ocean was the dead Godly King himself. He also started questioning the true purpose behind the sealing task, the giant corpse, the guidance of the original universe's will, and the mysterious power used by Great Thunderstar Master before his death. A pillar of light then transported Luo Feng to the 5th floor of wuxia tower, a vast snowy world. Reflecting on his gains, he was delighted that after 4,000 years of cultivation his divine body had reached a life gene level of 60,000 and was approaching 90,000. Outside wuxia tower, the 4 leaders of Godly King Valley saw that Luo Feng had reached the 5th floor in less than half an era and became excited. They noted that many elite soldiers had reached the 5th, 6th, or 7th floors, but only one had ever entered the 8th floor, and none had succeeded. They believed Luo Feng might have a chance to progress further. On the 5th floor, Luo Feng learned that all other participants had been eliminated and that he alone would continue. An ancient voice informed him that defeating a powerful opponent would allow him to advance to the 6th floor. Soon, a white-caped man with a red mole between his eyebrows appeared. Matching Luo Feng's power level and using blade techniques, he challenged Luo Feng. The two immediately engaged in a fierce duel. The white-caped man continuously unleashed different blade attacks, each stronger and more complex than the last, while Luo Feng defended and countered with his own techniques. As the battle continued through dozens and then hundreds of strikes, Luo Feng gradually realized that the fight was not truly a trial but a reward. Every blade technique used by the white-caped man served as instruction, demonstrating profound applications of the 10 fundamental laws: gold, wood, water, fire, earth, wind, thunder, light, time, and space. Although higher-level beings pursued chaos laws, these 10 laws remained the foundation of all law fusion and universe evolution. The white-caped man displayed numerous distinct blade techniques based on individual fundamental laws, each reaching an extremely high level. Watching and experiencing them firsthand dramatically deepened Luo Feng's understanding of the basic laws, with every strike providing insights worth more than 10,000 eras of ordinary cultivation. Realizing the immense value of this guidance, Luo Feng became increasingly exhilarated as the battle continued. Luo Feng was impressed by the white-caped man's blade techniques. The first 360 strikes were all top-tier level 6 techniques derived purely from the basic laws, providing him with valuable insight while he analyzed them through both his current body and the golden horned beast in the inheritance space. After the 360th strike failed to harm Luo Feng, the white-caped man switched to stronger attacks. He unleashed a level 7 blade technique that merged the laws of gold and space. Manifesting as a golden beast god, Luo Feng was forced to counter with light of water and fire. Realizing that the 5th floor tested combat techniques rather than treasures or godly power, the 4 leaders observed that Luo Feng had already understood the purpose of the 5th floor. Instead of defeating his opponent immediately, he intentionally prolonged the battle to learn from the demonstrated techniques. Drawing on the inheritance of Dong River, Luo Feng deepened his understanding of the 10 fundamental laws. The 360 basic law strikes strengthened his foundation, allowing him to better combine multiple laws and push his blade techniques further. As the battle continued, Luo Feng steadily improved. By the 399th strike, he finally broke through and created a new top-tier level 7 blade technique. Combining water, fire, gold, and space laws, he developed a destructive attack that tore apart everything in its path. He named the move 9 Days Path. alongside nirvana incarnation and light of water and fire. It became his third self-created blade technique. Luo Feng was delighted because top-tier level 7 techniques corresponded to the level of an ordinary true god, matching the average achievement of Duan Dong River's inheritors. Only 2 inheritors had ever reached level 8 while still universe masters. He also realized that his breakthrough would allow him to begin comprehending the third level of the Shi Wu Wings and further unlock the power of Star Tower. The 4 leaders were astonished by his achievement. Creating a true god-level technique as a universe master was considered extraordinary, and they recognized that Luo Feng possessed exceptional talent. The battle continued until the white-caped man performed 450 strikes. Luo Feng's 9 days path increasingly overwhelmed him, eventually knocking him back repeatedly. Finally, the white-caped man admitted defeat, discarded his ice blade, and disappeared. Although he had passed the 5th floor, Luo Feng felt regret. During the battle he had continuously refined his techniques and hoped to create a top-tier level 8 blade technique. But he fell just short of that breakthrough. He reflected that the white-caped man had demonstrated 360 basic law strikes and 90 merged law strikes to guide him as much as possible. Luo Feng then realized that Wu Qi Tower judged a warrior's own techniques rather than power borrowed from supreme true treasures. Moments later, a pillar of light descended, and he was teleported away from the snowy world of the 5th floor. On the 6th level of Wu Qi Tower, Luo Feng entered a vast world of mountains and hills. The aged voice informed him that he only needed to survive to pass the level and advance to the 7th level. A gigantic dark green thousand-eyed beast emerged from underground, covered in 1,000 eyes. It revealed that it had not seen a life form for a very long time and intended to slowly torment Luo Feng. Confident in his enormous godly body and numerous automaton-type true treasures, Luo Feng was determined to survive. The beast controlled the surrounding land, compressing over 1,000 floating continents into 1.000 black blades. As the blades attacked in formation, Luo Feng realized the beast possessed 1.000 separate consciousnesses, allowing each blade to unleash maximum power simultaneously. Although trapped within the blade formation, Luo Feng relied on his exceptional body technique and swordsmanship to evade and counter the attacks. The 4 commanders observing the battle believed the 6th level was particularly suited to Luo Feng because it mainly tested movement techniques, his greatest strength. They speculated about how far he could push the beast. Luo Feng easily handled the initial assault thanks to the extensive combat experience he had gained in the inheritance space against countless powerful opponents. Even when surrounded by 1.000 blades, he maintained control of the battle, minimizing damage and exploiting advantageous positions. Frustrated, the thousand-eyed beast upgraded its tactics, dividing the 1.000 blades into 100 coordinated teams of 10, making their combined attacks more than 10 times stronger and forcing Luo Feng to fight seriously. He fully unleashed his perfected body technique, seamlessly integrating attack and evasion, and by combining his blade art with movement, especially the 9 days path, he repeatedly disrupted the blade formations while maintaining the upper hand. The commanders observing the battle were astonished, realizing that Luo Feng's body technique had reached a near-perfect level. Even when the beast used its strongest move, Thousand Eyes Heart Light, it could only gain a slight advantage and still could not defeat him. In the end, the thousand-eyed beast acknowledged Luo Feng's strength and admitted that he might reach the peak of Wu Qi Tower before retreating underground, with the 1.000 blades reverting into mountains and hills. Luo Feng concluded that the creature was likely far more powerful than it had shown, possibly a void space true god suppressing its strength. A beam of light then descended and transported Luo Feng away from the 6th floor of Wu Qi Tower. On the 7th floor, he entered an icy world where a giant godly eye appeared in the sky, and an ancient voice announced that passing its test would allow entry to the 8th floor, the final trial before the 9th. Suspecting that the 9th floor hid a great secret, Luo Feng prepared cautiously. The godly eye unleashed a powerful mental shock similar to the 3rd floor, forcing Luo Feng to rely purely on his willpower to resist. Meanwhile, 4 leaders observing from afar revealed that the 7th floor tested candidates using the Godly Eye technique, a special secret technique created by the Godly King, and that among 6 previous challengers only one had managed to pass and reach the 8th floor. As the mental pressure intensified, Luo Feng endured it with relative ease. And ancient characters began appearing on a transparent ice mountain, revealing the first volume of the godly eye technique. Realizing it was a rare inheritance focused on willpower rather than a normal combat technique, Luo Feng immediately began studying it while resisting the pressure. The technique explained that willpower exists independently of the soul and consciousness. And while weaker beings gain little benefit from it, powerful experts can turn it into a formidable weapon, even leaving behind willpower traces after death. Only the greatest beings who deeply understood willpower could create techniques to utilize it. And the method required a practitioner's willpower to reach the level of a void space true God. It also included ways to strengthen willpower through self-reflection and understanding one's own heart. As the godly eye's pressure rose beyond the limits of a true God, Luo Feng continued to endure and eventually saw the entire first volume fully revealed. Then quickly moved on as a second ice mountain appeared and displayed the second volume, which he also memorized. Soon after, additional ice mountains manifested, and Luo Feng successively absorbed the third and fourth volumes with astonishing speed. The four leaders observing were shocked, noting that previous challengers had only managed to reach 3 volumes, while Luo Feng had already surpassed them. And they revealed that even they only possessed 6 volumes in total out of the 9 that made up the complete technique. Luo Feng continued studying the 5th volume as the willpower pressure intensified to a level comparable to a senior void space true God. Yet he still managed to complete it. When the 6th volume appeared at an even faster rate, the overwhelming pressure forced Luo Feng to collapse to the ground, nearing his limit, but his determination kept him conscious long enough to finish it. As the 7th volume began to form, Luo Feng finally lost consciousness and was immediately transported away by a pillar of light. The 4 leaders confirmed that Luo Feng had successfully obtained 6 volumes of the godly eye technique, far surpassing all previous challengers, and they revealed that even they had only been granted those same 6 volumes by the godly king. They also explained that the 8th and 9th floors remained completely unknown, as even they could not observe them, and that a previous challenger who reached the 8th floor had failed and lost all related memories. After being transported, Luo Feng arrived on the 8th floor and realized his willpower had advanced to nearly the peak level of a void space true God. Satisfied with gaining such a powerful inheritance unique to the Jin civilization, he prepared for the final challenge. The 8th floor was an endless void with a single small floating island. And due to the suppression of space and time, Luo Feng could not teleport and had to fly toward it. Upon reaching the barren island, he found ancient instructions stating that this was the final step before reaching the summit, requiring him to comprehend the surrounding space and obtain a technique. Success would grant access to the 9th floor, while failure would erase his memories and expel him from Wuxia Tower. As the instructions vanished, countless ancient characters appeared throughout the void, forming a vast, star-like diagram with no clear beginning or end. Luo Feng attempted to analyze them, believing he needed to organize them into a structured cultivation method. But even after 9 days of contemplation, he could not determine a starting point or pattern and began to worry that he would fail at this stage. Suddenly, all the characters lit up at once, and his consciousness was forcibly drawn into the scroll-like world, similar to entering a virtual universe, while a blurred black-robed figure silently observed him from afar, lamenting that previous candidates had all failed and expressing hope that someone from the world of Jin would finally succeed in inheriting this ultimate secret technique. Luo Feng arrived in a mysterious world filled with vast mountain ranges and a towering palace glowing with purple light. A voice continuously called out to him, and despite his awareness, he found himself unable to resist as he was drawn forward step by step until he entered the palace hall. Only then did he realize that his consciousness had been subtly controlled all along, revealing a terrifying gap in power between himself and the entity behind this space. Inside the hall, he encountered a massive black-scaled beast with a single purple horn, which introduced itself as the spirit of the secret technique. Luo Feng immediately understood that in ancient civilization inheritance systems, only supreme beings could create such a spirit of a secret technique, whose purpose was to guard the inheritance, select suitable successors, and prevent the technique from being stolen through force or memory extraction. The beast explained that Luo Feng had entered the world of scrolls because his foundation was strong enough. But whether he succeeded would depend entirely on his own ability. It then released 4 enormous scrolls onto the surrounding walls of the hall. of which only one appeared clearly while the other three remained blurred and unreadable. The visible scroll was identified as the acceptance guide of the secret technique. The spirit further explained that this acceptance guide served two purposes. First, to ensure that even if the inheritor were killed and their memories searched, the true technique would not be exposed. And second, to guarantee that only those who could truly comprehend it would inherit the full secret art. Once the acceptance guide was fully mastered, the complete secret technique would naturally be embedded into the soul of the cultivator. Luo Feng quickly realized that this was the true essence of the 8th level of wuxia tower, not to directly obtain the technique, but to comprehend the acceptance guide and thereby earn the qualification to enter the 9th level. He also understood that such a design ensured only the most extraordinary geniuses could pass. The purple-horned beast added that only cultivators ideally at the law master level, and at most true god level, could attempt this inheritance, as those at higher realms would find it incompatible. Luo Feng carefully observed the diagram of the Na Yin technique, and astonishingly memorized all its intricate symbols in a single glance. However, instead of rushing forward, he remained calm and began analyzing its underlying principles, fully aware of how rare and valuable this opportunity was. The guardian beast warned him that countless peerless geniuses had attempted this inheritance in the past. Yet none had succeeded, and it doubted Luo Feng would be any different. Contrary to its expectations, Luo Feng quickly grasped the cultivation method and immediately began training without hesitation. This unexpected decisiveness surprised the beast, which simply lay down and watched indifferently, waiting for him to fail and be expelled. As soon as Luo Feng began cultivating, all of his bodies resonated simultaneously: his earthling original body, golden horned beast body, Moshe body, and remote ocean body all entered the same cultivation state. Instantly, a massive transformation began across multiple regions of the universe. In the primal universe, within the human territory's primal secret region, the remote ocean body suddenly became completely still. Shortly afterward, faint white light began to emerge from the ocean's surface, spreading outward in waves. This was not ordinary energy but a terrifying willpower shock that radiated uncontrollably across the region. The effects were immediate. Undying beings and sector lords traveling nearby were instantly overwhelmed and lost consciousness, while even stronger cultivators could feel their minds being crushed by the invisible pressure. As the waves continued to expand, more powerful beings were affected. Soon, numerous universe masters from the Han Alliance gathered at the edge of the remote ocean, observing the phenomenon with shock and confusion, unable to determine its source but clearly sensing that the pressure was growing stronger and increasingly unstable. Some speculated that Luo Feng had obtained an ancient inheritance in the world of Jin and was currently cultivating it, causing this abnormal reaction. As the situation worsened, the primal Chaos City leader personally arrived. His presence stabilized the surroundings somewhat, and all universe masters showed respect as he issued immediate orders to evacuate unconscious individuals and prevent any powerful beings from approaching. Despite his composed demeanor, he was deeply concerned, especially after attempting to contact Luo Feng and receiving no response, leaving the origin of the disturbance completely unknown. Meanwhile, the phenomenon was not confined to the primal secret region alone, as even the Milky Way Holy Land experienced the spreading waves of mental pressure, confirming that Luo Feng's transformation was affecting vast areas. Back inside wuxia Tower on the 8th floor, Luo Feng stood motionless on a floating island, his entire body enveloped in brilliant white light. Within this light, every strand of his divine power was being inscribed with mysterious engravings that penetrated deep into the life imprint of each particle of his godly body. This marked a fundamental transformation. His willpower was no longer an intangible force but was being directly fused into his physical existence. Normally, willpower dissipates when a being dies, but Luo Feng's transformation meant that even fragments of his body, blood, bone, or flesh, would retain traces of willpower. This was the essential foundation for advanced willpower techniques such as the Godly Eye technique and represented a profound integration between mind and body. As the process deepened, the pain became increasingly unbearable. Luo Feng's consciousness was fully merged with his body, and every part of his life imprint was undergoing intense refinement, as if pierced by countless needles or burned by an endless internal flame. Although he had endured extreme suffering before, such as during the Star Tower inheritance, this experience was on an entirely different level. The greatest danger was not just enduring the pain, but whether his life imprint itself could survive the transformation. If it collapsed, he would die instantly. Yet there was no way to stop once he had begun, and he could only push forward into the second phase of cultivation. Observing from outside, the purple-horned beast became more serious, confirming that Luo Feng had entered phase 2 of the Na Yin technique, a stage reached by fewer than 50 individuals across countless eras. It began to suspect that Luo Feng might truly be an extraordinary genius chosen by the godly king. The beast explained that the Na Yin technique consisted of 3 phases. The first was relatively safe, the second extremely difficult, and the third a true life or death trial, with only a handful ever reaching it and most of them dying. At the same time, another mysterious entity cloaked in black light observed everything from within the 8th floor space. It was extremely excited by Luo Feng's progress and hoped he would reach phase 3. Though it knew how few had ever survived that stage, unable to interfere, it could only watch silently. As time passed, Luo Feng's cultivation continued for hundreds of years. The white light in the primal secret region gradually transformed into blue, marking a deeper evolution and causing the willpower shock to intensify even further. The pressure spread throughout the region, knocking out more powerful beings, and even universe masters began struggling to remain conscious under the overwhelming mental force. Eventually, after more than 900 years, the blue light transformed into purple, and a massive ancient engraving appeared across the entire remote ocean. At that moment, the willpower shock reached its peak intensity, causing almost all universe masters of the Han Alliance to collapse and faint instantly, leaving only a handful of the strongest beings barely able to remain conscious under the crushing pressure. The human camp was shocked when Luo Feng's willpower shock from the Milky Way Horde leader knocked 37 of 39 universe masters unconscious, leaving only Void Gold Master and Bu Huan Master awake. The Han Alliance realized the attack could potentially defeat most universe masters and even seriously injure universe supreme masters if mishandled. Primal Chaos City leader immediately ordered strict secrecy, allowing only universe masters within the Han Alliance to know, and warned that leaking would be treated as treason. He also worried about Luo Feng's safety, suspecting he was in danger and cut off from the outside world on the 8th floor of wuxia Tower in the world of Jin. Luo Feng's godly body underwent intense transformation while practicing the Na Yin technique. During phase 3, a purple-horned beast explained that the technique tested the soul at its limit and failure meant death. Luo Feng's soul repeatedly reached collapse but adapted each time, allowing him to continue. Over time, his condition stabilized and he successfully endured the 3rd phase. After 90 years of practice, a spiritual entity revealed that Luo Feng had met the requirements set by its master, a supreme being named Yuan. Upon completion, the entity dissolved and transferred the complete inheritance into Luo Feng's mind. Luo Feng then learned the Lai Yuan technique, a powerful willpower-based method far superior to the godly eye technique. With extremely strict soul requirements and potential influence over major power structures in the ancient civilization. Even the God King of Jin and others had previously failed to master it after the inheritance. Luo Feng was transported away from the 8th floor, a black-robed being overseeing the trial. After observing his success, calmly disappeared. Luo Feng arrived at the 9th floor of wuxia Tower, confirming he had passed the trial and was eligible for sealing and receiving wuxia God. Standing inside an ancient palace, he prepared to continue forward when a voice from the front called him to enter. Following the ancient stone-paved passage filled with exquisite carvings, Luo Feng continued forward and arrived at a slightly open door. Inside, he saw scattered automaton components and weapon parts. A man in a beautiful robe sat nearby examining them and calmly invited Luo Feng to sit on a black throne. Luo Feng complied, but immediately felt something strange. Unlike other powerful beings he had encountered, this man emitted no oppressive aura, instead giving off a gentle, almost familiar feeling. Despite this, Luo Feng remained cautious and sensed something deeply unusual. The robed man then revealed his identity. He was the godly king of the world of Jin. More precisely, he was a virtual consciousness left behind after the godly king had departed. He explained that before embarking on a hopeless and dangerous path, the godly king created wuxia Tower and left behind this consciousness as a final backup. While the true self eventually perished, he further explained that wuxia Tower has 9 levels, and the 9th level connects to the core of the world of Jin's origin. From changes in that core, he confirmed that the godly king had been annihilated. He also deduced that Luo Feng was not a native life form of the world of Jin, because the universe origin core did not recognize him. Unlike native beings who are automatically bound with absolute loyalty to the godly king then demanded that Luo Feng swear an oath, in the future. Upon reaching godly king level, he must do his best to kill 3 pinnacle existences opposing the world of Jin. The oath would bind his soul, with annihilation as punishment for breaking it. Although Luo Feng was shocked and wary, he realized he had no real choice under threat of complete destruction. So he reluctantly accepted the godly king, then activated a formation of law engravings to verify the oath and monitor Luo Feng's soul. However, he suddenly reacted with shock upon discovering that Luo Feng had already completed cultivation of the 9-volume manual. Upon hearing this, he immediately cancelled the oath requirement. He explained that the 9-volume manual was lost knowledge from the world of Jin, and anyone who cultivated it became tied to the core lineage of the Jin world, effectively marking Luo Feng as part of it. As a result, Luo Feng would naturally become a target of other pinnacle existences, and thus there was no need for him to swear the oath anymore.